feel like I'm like getting on a roller coaster. You know when you get on a really scary roller coaster and you have that moment of like, I should just not get on this ride. Hello, old-time friend. I have a lot to say to you that has remained unsaid for many years. First, I just want to thank you for being such a great friend to me in my very fragile teenage years.
Aw.
I came from a broken home with very little money and no means to explore the world outside of suburban Carmichael. You introduced me to your loving family who welcomed me and loved me with open arms. They helped me travel and showed me a way of life I had not been exposed to. You personally were supportive and overall were a really good friend to me.
Were emphasis on
Were.
oh, it's making me tear up a little bit. Like it's so vulnerable to like. To
It's
know
incredibly
I really
sweet. It's incredibly nice so far.
Really good. Were a really good friend to me, who I felt I could share anything with. I'm not sure why, but something changed. I feel our best friendship ended around 2009. And a resentment started growing between us.
A bit surprised by that year.
I started feeling a judgment in the tone of your voice, a sense of hostility in your actions.
Yeah, my writing's a little sloppy. There might be some tears on there.
Only 4 years after they started it.
That upset you? Did I treat you poorly? Did I make you feel insignificant, downplay the importance you held in our company, and imply you were not just as responsible for our success as me?
I mean, hey, I asked you some questions. Now maybe I can get an answer.
So far, it's really sweet. It kind of makes me wonder if he's just buttering him up, though. You know, saying nice things to lift him up before he hits him with the hard things. I don't know. But it seems very genuine, and it seems very vulnerable. And if he never intended on giving it to Ian, then I don't know why he would put in a buttering up, you know, at the front. It's beautiful so far. It's you know, he's expressing that he feels like Ian has some sort of resentment towards him, and he doesn't know why, and he's asking why. So here we go.
I mean, I suspect that.
Oh, look at Ian's face there.
I suspect that.
There. Oh, I don't know. There's a tinge of pain there.
Wait, are you reading this, or is this your thoughts?
No, sorry. Oh. Yeah. Wait, you don't know this?
Oh,
you don't know this?
It was confusion because he didn't remember writing that. No, that's Ian talking.
I mean, I suspect that we're gonna get into it further. That certain like relationships that we had might have had an effect. So, sense of judgment in the tone of my voice, hostility in my actions.
I don't
Hostility.
know. A little bit, like resentful, like frustration. And I don't know if that perfectly aligns with the years or whatever.
2009 though.
Well, I felt like our best friendship.
Yeah.
Kind of, like.
So this was 2 years after we moved in.
One
1 year.
Yeah, I think I felt like we no longer shared everything with each other at that point. And I think it really was that we were working so many hours that we would hang out. And then finally when we were done, it was like some alone time.
Yeah.
You know, when before our time together, we were just hanging out.
Right.
And communicating. And I feel like it just became so much about focus on the work.
Yeah.
Yep.
All that free time that we normally would use to like hang out, that kind of became the method to which we created new content. And I think the rate at which we had to put out content turned all of that free time into work time.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of what I was talking about before, about going into business with a friend, is that the relationship can change because you become so focused on the work that anytime you're together, you're doing work or you're talking about work. And so just the hangout time, the fun time kind of takes a back seat. And so the friendship kind of withers just because it's not being nourished. And I think that's kind of what they're getting at.
It was around that time that we launched, like seriously launched second channel shows, and I think it was like two of them going on at once. And it was around that time that we launched the Smosh Pit, which used to be a section of the website with articles and all that. And you and I were tasked with coming up with like at least one article a week.
It was stupid.
It was such a waste of our time, but it was so much time that I think that by the time that we were done working on this stuff, I was like, cool, I'm gonna go sit in my room alone.
Right. Instead of hanging out.
Yeah.
So that probably contributed a little bit to just that feeling. I don't know if it was actually any hostility, but I think I started around that time getting the idea.
Well, not hostility, but probably
Feeling
judgment. I could see there's like, I think that I was generally a pretty like judgmental person. And like, I think that, you know, I think that kind of like it would come out.
God, this is just two people who love each other as brothers being very vulnerable to each other in front of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. This is insane that they're talking about their friendship this openly on camera, but you can tell that it's real. This is from a sociology standpoint, this is fascinating. This is and it's beautiful in a way. I don't know. I'm starting to rethink my idea that this was a bad idea. I mean, it might be a bad idea for their friendship, but it's a great look into how personal interactions work and how friendships build and how they die and hopefully how they, you know, reconcile, you know, with the communication that wasn't there before, now coming to light, and you know, and finally talking about the things that they didn't talk about before. But it seems like they're being very honest while also being very careful to not attack, or even that's a harsh word, but not to they let their feelings be known in a way that's constructive and not destructive. So it seems like, you know, they say that they weren't communicating well before. It seems like they're doing a very good job of communicating now. I like how they're going about doing this. And I feel like they're both very, I don't know how they were when they had their falling out, but it seems like they've both grown a lot.
I was generally a pretty like judgmental person, and like I think that
admission of,
you know, I think that kind of like it would come out
of their own
in
fault.
A lot of the comedy that we would write too, like judgment of like something, and I think I also like viewed like people through that same lens.
You mean just like the jokes that you would make would be like, oh, that's kind of dumb. Oh, that's kind of dumb.
Yeah, something like that.
While we're making Smosh sketches.
Yeah. All right, let's keep moving. I feel like okay. I know I struggle with many things, and I'm so sorry if I ever put you through emotional turmoil in order to fulfill my own quota of self-importance.
A quota of self-importance. Causing you turmoil to fulfill. Yeah, you know, maybe he did at the time feel like he was a bigger part of Smosh's success than Ian's. It almost sounds that way. It is interesting that Anthony is so careful with his wording in this, even though he's not he never intended for Ian to read it. And I think maybe that's because he wanted to be very intentional with his words and to make sure that he didn't express anything toxic that could then solidify in his own mind. And I think that's important. I never really thought about that before, but even if you want to write a letter to someone never intending for them to read it, I think it is. I never thought about this, but and I'm not a psychologist anyway, but I think it is important to, for your own sake in that moment, to be sure that you're not just feeding your own anger. And it seems like Anthony did a really good job of being careful with his own thoughts. And I think that was really mature and really smart on his part. Let's see where this goes. This so far. He's not really said anything bad. He's not said anything mean or hurtful, and but who knows where this goes? Maybe he'll kind of lose traction at some point. I hope not, because so far this is really constructive and meaningful.
You confused about that?
I don't think I was ever put through emotional turmoil. I don't think I would have recognized if I was being put through emotional turmoil.
That doesn't mean that you weren't being put through it.
Oh, maybe.
That just might mean that you were shutting things off.
Probably. Yeah. Quota of self-importance.
Yeah, that's an interesting term.
I think that
phrase.
I had self-esteem issues.
Okay.
And the way that I remedied that was by feeling like I was super important. And when you're part of a duo,
sure.
I felt like I was more important the more that I felt like I was the reason for X, Y, and Z.
Right.
With the success, with the ideas, with the direction, with the leadership, all those things. So I think I started to inflate my own ego about my own importance.
Sure.
Got it. Okay.
To make up for that void.
So you would do certain things to justify your importance.
I don't think I would do certain things. I think I would just have the idea in my head, like I'm the reason this is successful.
Right. Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't think you ever. I mean, off the top of my head, I mean, obviously this stuff happened so long ago, but I don't think you ever. I can't point to a moment where you put me through emotional turmoil to fulfill your own quota of self-importance.
Okay. I don't know if I necessarily.
Yeah.
Well, I do still feel like at a certain time I didn't outwardly belittle you, but I think I just didn't praise you. I think that's a big difference in us reuniting. Is I am so willing to praise you and mention your strengths. I think back then, acknowledging your strengths was, to me, pointing out my own weaknesses. Because you being good at something, in my head at that time, meant I'm bad at it.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So I withheld compliments. I withheld acknowledgement.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I think where some of this comes from is I think back then we had this idea of equality, and we had to be doing equal work,
Yeah, to justify, because we're getting paid equally, we're getting, all that thing. It's like, we're a duo, we need to do the same amount of work.
Yeah.
50-50.
So I think there was probably, maybe there was some resentment when one person thought they were doing more work than the other. In most cases, you were doing more work than me.
I was doing more hours,
sure,
but I think you were doing more of the creative heavy lifting, which is more taxing in many ways. So I think that you needed your time to recoup your energy because you're coming up with funny stuff, and at that time I was like, I'm doing so much work.
Right.
Doing all the editing and stuff.
I think we were so focused on
editing
how
is
do an equal amount of work when what was being required from each of us with each of our skills was totally different.
Yeah, it wasn't. We were not at a certain point. We were not playing to our strengths. It was just like the amount of
playing
hours.
to like what was fair.
Yeah, fair hour wise. Like, with the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tame so far.
I think so. Yeah, I'm waiting for it to get real bad.
Yeah, me too.
I always wanted everything I made to be just that, something I made with your help. I considered Smosh to be something you were only tagging along for, and I'm deeply sorry if I ever made you feel like you didn't deserve as much credit as me.
That's another, I feel like, an admission of guilt. Like, I always felt like this was my thing and you were tagging along. And I don't think he's saying that that's the way it should be. I think that really is an admission of, this is where I was wrong. This was a fault in my thought process, and I was wrong for thinking that.
You may not have done some of the heavy lifting I did in the early days, but definitely encouraged us to keep going, and you kept things light and full of laughs as we did it. We accomplished so much, and I am just now realizing how important you were in making that happen. Wait, does this ever actually get like mean to me? Because I feel like this is all just saying, this is all just very like affirming to me.
Like, there's some.
He did
some
say
stuff
you-
that's
Yeah, I'm
coming
waiting
up.
for it. I'm waiting for it because
He did say you didn't do a lot of the heavy
it's just,
lifting,
like, nice.
But the thing that
but
you
it is very nice. It's very
read
sweet.
there,
Yeah.
you did, and this was actually really nice for me to hear from you. But it was a few days after we had confirmation that we had bought Smosh.
Yeah.
You came over to my place. We, had a little, what do you want to call that hang? A very
celebratory hang.
very luxurious.
Yeah.
Very.
I brought us cigars.
We chilled with cigars and some whiskey.
Nice.
And we just broed it up.
Yep.
And you said that to me,
What?
that exact thing. You said, hey, I don't think I ever really acknowledged the heavy lifting that you did in the early days. And
Yeah.
And you said that you felt really lucky to be there at that time, and that I included you in that. And it was really nice to hear. Even though I know, like,
I think I always felt like some guilt towards like you doing like all this like crazy shit that had to be done like in editing and like, if we needed something done with the website, and like it was always like you that had to do those things because you had
all the
that
technical
skill set,
stuff.
and you had the determination to do that. But like,
yeah, so it seems like Anthony did a lot of the editing, a lot of the technical stuff, a lot of the computer stuff, and Ian, was in the videos and made, put his comedic spin on things and had great ideas, but didn't put in as many hours of just the crunch work, which that really is. That's the part that's not fun, and I think maybe Anthony had a little bit of like, well, I'm a bigger part of this because I have to do this and I have to cut these things and take the raw footage and make it into a cohesive video. And all you do is just show up and act silly. And so that means I'm more important than you. I feel like maybe that's what Anthony's attitude was at the time, which, I mean, there is some validity to that. He's putting in more hours. He's doing more of the work that's not as fun, but Ian is still a big part of what Smosh. I don't know early Smosh, but he's a big part of what that was, and he brought something to the table that was important. Maybe he was more of an idea man. Maybe he was more of the funny guy, where Anthony was maybe a little more business oriented and a little more tech oriented. And it's a marriage of, like they said, of skill sets. it's not about who puts in the most hours. It's about, what do we bring to the table and what is the worth of what I bring and what you bring. And really, in a partnership like that, it shouldn't really even become a comparison. It's just, this is what you're good at, this is what I'm good at. Let's do the things we're good at, and we'll make a good product. But yeah, I can see how that would happen if one person is putting in more hours of the grunt work. And that's kind of what business is when you're business partners. How much am I doing? How much are you doing? And we're getting paid the same amount. I get it. I get it. I totally get it. I feel like at this point, neither one of them have to do the editing. I feel like they probably have editors for that, so it's probably no longer an issue. But I could see how in the early days that could be a point of contention.
Yeah, there's no way that I could do that stuff. So
No.
so it was always just like I would just kind of be like, oh, okay, like,
Yeah.
I'll just
I don't know computer stuff, so I'm gonna go over here.
like
whatever.
come in and give notes or whatever. But
Yeah.
but like I don't think I probably thanked you enough or acknowledged the fact that you did more. Maybe because I was like maybe afraid that if I did acknowledge that you were doing more, then I would need to do more like in return. I don't know. Like,
Right?
Yeah.
Sure,
there's
that's
probably
fair.
something there where it was just like I think I was just like so obsessed with like this idea of like fairness
Yeah.
and what was fair.
Isn't it insane to think that if we had just had a conversation and said, "Hey, I feel like I'm not, I want to do what's fair, but it feels like you're doing
Yeah,
more," like
right. We couldn't have that conversation though.
if we did, everything would have been different.
Yeah,
Conversation, communication, it's everything. Just communicate. Just voice your concerns when they're just concerns. Don't wait until they become issues. That's the important thing.